Most of these projects are hosted on Google Code, and it's really hard to track them. So the necessity for me to keep up with tracking with all these apps gave birth to Django pluggables. And I think this project was a testament to the ease that Django provides for bringing a vision to reality. And I only built the basics. It took me about 3 days to do the Django backend stuff, and then 1 day to do the design, and 1 day to test it. So moving on to what Pluggables does. How does it get projects? Well, it's me. I do research because Google Code has no API. If any Google Code people are here, it's a plug to you. You made my job really difficult. It made my cat faint. Anyway, Jacob saved the day, though, after I found Jelly Roll. And if you've been to Jacob's site, I'm sure everybody has. He has a part of his site where he keeps track of his wiki edits and his commits, and I just pretty much took that and generalized it, and I was able to add projects and keep track of commits. And all I ask is for an update to it because it hasn't been updated in months. So pretty much, I'll make a long story short, if you have a reusable app, you should be on Django pluggables. Reason I say that is because there were a few projects that were doing it, and I think that there should be one. And actually, the guys that did Django apps, I became really good friends with the guys that did Django apps, which was sort of a project that was done at PyCon. So, Adrian had talked yesterday about having sort of a semi-quasi-blessed official repository for Django apps, and I'd like it to be this one. So things I plan to add soon, because obviously doing it in 5 days, I couldn't get everything in. Things like comments, voting, like I use this app. Project creators can claim and create projects so they don't have to email me all the time. Support for Git, which is proving to be an interesting challenge. Search, developer statistics, and patches are always welcome, and the code for Django pluggables is right up there. And that's it. So you can go there, it's djangopluggables.com, or email me if you have any questions. Thanks.
All right, this talk is basically why Vim is awesome and it is better than TextMate. Okay, so one of the big things that I emphasize on my blog is knowing your editor is pretty key. And there are a few features of Vim that I think are awesome. First of all, it's cross-platform, so those not lucky enough to have a Mac can still run it and have the majority of features that are in TextMate. You get nice fonts, you get all kinds of great things, project drawers, and also you can use it on the server when you might not have TextMate available. Vim allows you to edit files over SCP, FTP, and all that other good stuff. Vim has the project drawer. Similar to TextMate, there are bookmarks, which are what's up top, which allow you to, easy access to quick projects and things like that. Let's see. One easy thing that I really like is, I think this is actually better than TextMate's project drawer because you can toggle it on and off to save screen real estate. Moving back and forth between it is super simple. And it allows you easy manipulation, so file system manipulation. So from this screen, I can add, move, copy, and delete. So Vim has an Emacs-like shortcut, it's Command-Shift-Option-N to create, I think, a new file. Some of the things that TextMate users wanting to switch might want are something like the Command-T. I've implemented that as space, comma F, to find something like templates. At the bottom, you'll see a list of everything in the projects directory that has templates in the file name. If you do this, it opens up that directory. And there's a lot of things in Vim that save time. For instance, especially when editing like HTML. Say I completely messed up this entire statement. I can select everything that's in that tag, including that tag, and just delete it, or just the stuff inside. And that's super helpful for when doing any HTML style stuff. I'm pretty command line driven person, so having everything as a keyboard shortcut and not having to go to your mouse is super helpful for me. So when doing block edits, which you can do in Vim, but if I recall, require using the mouse to be efficient at it. And one, actually the last thing is it has excellent large file support. So for a few people who have been bitten by TextMates poorly handling large files, this is awesome for it. I've done a series of Vim screencasts, and you can check it out on my blog, which is justinlilly.com.
Okay, hi everybody. So I have a little confession to make. I have always wanted to be you, but I never could be because 10 years ago I was doing web development, doing a lot of HTML, a little bit of Perl, and I just could never learn SQL. I hit it, and it was like, okay, this is too much, and so I gave up. And I was a liberal arts major. And then I found myself in China, and I was a translator. And I started noticing some problems with translation. And about this time, I found Django. This was about a year ago. And I started thinking, okay, translation has a problem. Commercial software packages, in-house translation shops, they all build up large translation memories, but they treat them as proprietary, their treasure. They don't share them with other people. And I thought a web-based application would be the perfect way for translators to share their translation memories together, and it's a big sort of net win for everybody. So I started learning Django. I did minor sites, and it was all with the focus of building this one site. So a year later, never used Python, never used Django. Here I am. And since I was rushing to get it done, the style sheets are a little bit, maybe not so good. So, but the functionality is all there, and you can check it out at tinytrans.com, which is still very alpha. So I'm going to just show the very basics now. Okay, so the idea behind this is that you upload any document in any language, and thank you for Django's amazing internationalization support. It just works out of the box. Things that I never imagined would work without me doing one line of code, like Arabic support. They just worked, and it was amazing to me. So the idea behind this, and I'll maybe make this just a little smaller. Everyone can still see it? Okay. So the idea is you upload this big, long document. This comes from a news article on a Chinese website about Google Chrome's launch a couple days ago. And while this morning I just did a quick little demo. So you upload the whole document, you just dump it as text into the editor, and the main part of the software uses some rules that are different for each language to break it up into phrases. The translator then uses this little interface, which is split between the source and the target. The source text is Chinese in this case, the target text is English. Selects a phrase, which if you mouse over it, highlights. So the parser has broken this up into phrases. And you select a phrase, and it gives you the option to translate it, which in this case I already have. And you can sort of gather a little bit of the gist of the article. This says, here's the target, the Chinese version, difficult birth. So obviously the localization team at Google, this wasn't an easy thing for them to do. So what you have at this point, you move through the entire document, phrase by phrase. The translator doesn't have to take their hands off the keyboard. They just move through, if I hit return. And it's a little bit small here, but thank you. So anytime another translator has translated this phrase, it'll pop a little tip. Again, the interface needs a little work, but this is the basic idea. So, and then sort of at the end, you get these kind of awkward sentences because you've translated it phrase by phrase. At the end, you're given a wiki, which is, opens up possibilities for collaborative editing and polishing, and also the extra added wonderful version control sort of aspect of a wiki. So what are the final things that I want to say about this? I've put them on a slide.
1 minute.
Okay. This opens the possibility for collaborative or distributed translation. Everything is here. You can break a translation up into phrases and serve it to multiple translators who can work in parallel. It's a machine-human translation blend, which is, I believe, sort of the midterm future for translation. And I just learned out about Google Translation Center, which, as far as I can tell, does the exact same thing. So I'm going to need to find some way to compete with that. So so I was really happy to come here. I want more than anything else to learn what you guys are working on. I love web apps. And if you're interested in translation or web applications for translation, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
All right, my name is Jake. I am not a programmer, which is a little bit weird. It makes me feel a little bit crazy to be here. I am connected to the Django world in that I'm managing a project that we're building in Django. And I'm here because Wiley and I were colleagues back in Beijing, and we remain colleagues now that we're back in the States here. And he thought I should come here and do a little bit of learning and see what I could find out. And I was, as I was sort of like reading through the, DjangoCon stuff and reading about, what the program was, what these lightning talks were all about, I was thinking, what are the things that I might be able to contribute in some way as a project manager and not as a programmer. And I still don't really know, but I'll give you a little, just tell you about the project that we're working on. It's called the Carrot Project. It is a brand comparison tool. It is something that is similar in kind to Consumer Reports, but it's focused not on product quality, but rather on the social and environmental responsibility behind the businesses, behind the businesses that make the products we buy. I think this is important because every time any of us buys anything, any product, any service, we are supporting a business, whether we want to or not, whether we mean to or not, whether we care or not. We are saying to the business, we like what you're doing, and we'd like you to do more of it. And so, I want to be able to consume with a purpose. I want to be able to, every time I buy anything, support a business that's doing more good things for the world than their competitors. So we've been working on this little tool, and the basic use case is me. Is the guy that for example wants to go buy a pair of running shoes and wants to, with that purchase, support a business that's doing good things for the world. So what we have done here, this is again quite oh, sorry. Where are we going here? Whoops, this is kind of big. Make this smaller. Sorry. Command minus, sorry. That's too small. Plus. Okay. Anyway. Okay, again, we haven't really layered any UI on top of this, but the basic idea is, you want to buy a pair of running shoes, you come to the site, you see a list of mainstream brands, and you can see which of these brands get the most sort of votes of confidence from different experts in different aspects of social and environmental responsibility. And, if anyone wants to go into detail about sort of like how we're putting this together, or what's going on, whether that's just in terms of the idea itself or technically, because Wiley's also working on this project, feel free to come talk to me. And that can be done, and if you want to, and carrot.dirtcircle.com, that's what I just showed you. moreperfectmarket.com is my blog, and that's my email address. And I just, last thing I want to say is just, in terms of what I can contribute here, again, I don't know, but I really dig the sort of collaborative aspect of this whole, Django thing. And and I really also appreciate the fact that Django has made the lives of my developers better. And if anybody, thinks they might be able to get something out of me, just let me know.
Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is a project called Django Location Tracking. I've got the Google Code project created. It'll be up probably within about a week. But we're going to talk about what it does, and if I can get, jumping the gun, I guess. Okay, what it allows you to do is find yourself if you don't know where you are. Not really. Basically what it allows you to do is track yourself online, allow other people to track yourself. It works with a technology called APRS. It's Automated Position Reporting System, and that's over amateur radio. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with that. It's something I play with quite a bit. I also use an NMEA logger, just a hardware device that is available. There's another device called the Spot, which is a two-way satellite tracker. And most recently, I use it with a software product called Instamapper, which is available for the iPhone and also for a bunch of other phones. And you can find information on them at their website and what it works with. So some people would say, why would you want to do that? And the main reason, I was going on a trip, actually to Oshkosh, Wisconsin for the big fly-in up there. And I wanted the ultimate scrapbook. I wanted where I was, what I was doing, everything. So I did that with a tumble log, but there wasn't really anything out there to show me where I was when I did things. And it kind of stuck. I've kind of got addicted to it now. So why not? There's a lot of other things you can use it for. APRS particularly is used for high altitude balloons, model rocketry, anything that you can put a small tracker on. You can keep track of where it is and plot it over time. You can also geocode things you post roughly. You know, if you know that your device beaconed at a certain time and a picture was taken, it's probably within a close margin of error there. So there are privacy implications. If you were to use this, you need to realize that everywhere you're going is going on the internet, and that's just the way it is. So I want to show you some examples from my site. This is up to my when I did go. So you'll see me leaving out of Lawrence, Kansas there, the home base, and going all the way up to Wisconsin. This was via car. You can kind of see where the APRS over ham radio kind of fell short. There wasn't enough infrastructure in place. This is, say, a trip from Lawrence down to southern Missouri. This is, you know, morning commute in Lawrence. And this is actually when I came to DjangoCon. Went from Lawrence to Kansas City, flew into Denver, and then came over. And so consciously, I'll pull out my phone and beacon whenever I'm somewhere that I want to remember where I was. And I'm always able to do this. And it's updated live on my website, just like that first slide showed. This is a code sample of the template. Really simple, just Google Maps. The trick to it is your load location tracking, and then there's a template tag that pulls back as position for a user. And then really all you use is your latitude, longitude, and then in the bottom you can format the timestamp however you want. And that yields something like this. It runs on the front page. Actually, it's in my base.html. So it always shows where I was. If you use it, remember with Instamapper, you have to credit them with that. And it's really kind of simple. If you want to find it, it's on code.google.com, Django location tracking. Probably have it released within, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. The code's already there, and it's able to be split out easy. So some people kicked me, and I'm going to go ahead and release it. Limitations you need to know about for right now, you can only do one person or device at a time. I'm working on a couple ways around that. Uses a cron job to pull stuff. So that's it. If you want to know more about it, come up and ask me.
Hi all, my name's Pete Baumgartner. Have a little Django shop called Lincoln Loop. Do a lot of outsourced Django work for folks that are overloaded or don't have in-house developers and stuff like that. Real quick, wanted to show you a couple of pet projects I've been working on. First one is this site called Trail Mapping. You may have caught it in the community aggregator. It's built on Pinax. It's using like 5% of Pinax right now. I'm hoping to plug in the rest of it sometime soon. But goes through and similar to what we were just talking about before, take your GPX device, upload data to the site, and you get kind of this nice visualization here of where you went and everything. Got this little slider interface. You can see where you're going, what your elevation was, all that stuff. I'm not using GeoDjango at all, and pretty much kicking myself after watching the presentation yesterday. I built the site originally in probably about 20 hours, and doing some pretty ugly stuff with pickle fields and in the database. So but looking forward to switching it over to GeoDjango and adding some new features and stuff. Total side project, has warts and stuff, but if you're interested in this stuff, I'd love to get some more data on here, so think about signing up. The other one is this real estate system I've built. I have been around a number of real estate sites and really struggled to find any that were even close to useful or helpful. I found in general the design's terrible, the functionality's horrible. You know, they could have been built in '99 and never updated. So had an opportunity to build one for a client and got the kind of go ahead to release it as a product. Downloads all your listings from MLS, brings them in, gives you a nice easy search interface. We can pull up listings, maps, lets you put in local landmarks, so I can see, oh, this house is near a school. Pretty basic stuff, but for some reason lacking from a lot of real estate sites. I took the Django admin here and kind of built in some additional features where people can easily create a blog, work on page of their site, have associates listed, flash slideshows, landmarks, working on a virtual tour deal where they can have a flash virtual tour, because realtors love flash virtual tours. One thing I wanted to show you really quick, somebody was asking about TinyMC in the admin. Here's a hacked up version that I created. Also lets you upload files right into here. Integrates with Snapshot, so it knows I uploaded a photo. I can go in and spin this around, and there it is. And if I refresh down here, I should see my new picture and drop it in. So really easy for people that don't know HTML to get stuff working. That's, I've recently rebranded that. It's called Gondola CMS, gondolacms.com. Love to have developers hack on it. I've got on GitHub a sample of templates. Basically, we'll just give SCP access to people and let you create your own templates on the system. Hosted CMS, haven't really figured out too much more than that, but if you're interested, please come find me. I'm at lincolnloop.com, so love to talk to you if you're interested in any of this kind of stuff.
All right. What I made was Django Test Maker, and what it is a piece of Django middleware that just sits on your test server, and when you go and browse your session while you're on the development server, it'll actually write out unit tests of what's going on in the background. So it's kind of an easy way to just get a baseline for your unit testing, just so your code has some kind of tests. And I'm just going to show a little demo of it. So what you do is it's just a management command you call test maker. And in this one, I'm passing in my IP because this is on a remote server. So hopefully that stays up, breaking the cardinal rule of presentations. But anyway, just if I just browse around my site a little bit, it's actually in the background, it's writing a log file of all this stuff and creating just kind of a way to make sure that if it's broken, it'll continue to stay broken in the same way. If it's new and different, then I have to change the test or rerun the code. So if I just go ahead and browse around, then you can see in the terminal. When I close it out, it writes a fixture of the data of the current database when you're running the tests. So it writes out a file, test.py. So let's just update that. And what it does is, as you can see, it just writes down the fixture to where whatever it wrote out, and then has a test case of a unit test, which is Django's test client. Like up here at the top, it imports the test client. And it just makes a test, so you have a unit test of that session. So if we go ahead and run manage.py test blog, it'll go through and run the tests on that, and hopefully it'll work. Yeah, so anyway, that's pretty much all it does. I've had a couple little patches to it to try to make it do some more cool stuff, but it's just, as I said, a good way to get a baseline of testing, and it just gives you something where, so if you get a 404, every time you submit a build or whatever, you can run that and just make sure everything's working as it used to. So that's about it. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Ramin, and I wanted to talk a little about using Django in a way that you may not have thought of, or just a different way, which is usually we all use it on the server, and this is a typical sort of architecture of the sort of things that most of you are doing, like on the back end and front end and all this sort of stuff. But this part here is what I wanted to focus on, which is basically running Django as a microserver on your desktop. And okay, and so here, let me run one of these things. This is just Django running, and this is an Air front end, and I'm going to do a couple quick demos of the sort of things. So this is an Air front end talking, and I kept the Django on the side. So okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to make sure it's sort of blocking me here. And so things like talking to this microserver, which through Py2xe or Py2app, you can actually be running as a daemon on your desktop and having nice front ends that talk to it, and then proxy that back to the server for when you want to get more information. So in this case, this application is getting all this data from this proxy, this microserver that's running on your desktop. And so you can do fun things like RSS readers that download the content and actually put it right there in front, and you can be disconnected and then sync back up. And this is another thing that after seeing the GeoDjango now, I'm totally stoked because this fits really nicely. You can go get this stuff and actually map it, and I had to write a lot of that stuff by myself, so now I'm just going to rip it all out. So that's one thing. To use Django, it's in a minimal version on your desktop. And for the second part of this, I'm just going to show you a movie because I don't have time to run this setup. But here's another application of using it as a microserver on the desktop, and hopefully you'll be able to. Is it running? I don't know if it. So basically, this is Django running on the back end as a microserver, proxying to all of those services you see, and works great. So encourage you to look at Django, consider it on your desktop. Thanks.
My name is Devin Nakan. I was a summer intern at Discuss. Long story short, Discuss manages comments generally on blogs, but any website you want. So we'll handle all your comments and conversations and stuff like that. For example, this is an embedded comment. It's all done in JavaScript. You can look at the code right here. It's a very minimal example. So our problem was, or I was designing our test framework over the summer. So the problem is the Django test framework, the Python test framework is really, really good, and you can do unit tests, and you can run the test client, and you can test your views, and blah, 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 blah. But since so much of our application is done in JavaScript, like this right here, we need a way of testing this JavaScript. So what I did was I did a little thing extending the Django test server to where whenever you're running a test, it'll bring up the fixtures and everything, which is really great. You don't have to worry about the state of your database. Your tests are independent of like anything else. But now I can pull up an actual live server so that I can get my browser to interact with that test. For example, I have a test right here that runs a test on this embed to do some editing. So it'll bring up a Firefox and start running a server that's just hosting all the Django and everything. So that this Firefox instance can actually talk to that server, and it'll do all the JavaScript, test all the JavaScript, so that we can ensure that that JavaScript is actually functioning as we expect it to. And I don't have to manage a database because the Django test framework does all that for me. It'll set up my fixture, it'll tear it down when I'm done, and it'll recreate it later. So that's the one thing I did. This is all, I've posted it all on old tickets. It's all on, and we're going to start looking to get that into Django proper. It kind of back burner because of 1.0, but we'll start looking at that now. And the other thing is that I set up this whole system for running tests. The way we do it at Discuss was we had a commit hook on our Subversion repository. And every time we did a commit, come in, automatically run all of our tests, log all the results so you can go in and see exactly what went wrong and who did it and why. You can see here that Tumblr was messing up on us. But it's just a nice little way to just make sure that all your code is running properly and you don't really have to worry about it. And this is the little application that I wrote over the summer. I'm going to start getting it ready to publish, get it out open source, put it up on Google Code so anybody can sit that and hook that in with their own application. And that's about it.
So I guess I can start without it. I want to talk about Ella. It's an open source CMS. I've already talked about it at a bunch of conferences, PyCon, so you might be familiar with this talk. We are not really ready for releasing it yet, but we have put up a site. So you should be able to at least download the source code and have a look at it. It's not there yet, but we are working on it. It should be there by the end of the week because the site recently got down. So basically what Ella is, it's a CMS that powers some of our sites. This is a women's magazine. It's our biggest site. It has almost 1 million page views per day, and it's all done in Django. What's the biggest advantage of Ella is that it doesn't distinguish between different content types. So I have articles here. This one is a gallery and everything, and Ella simply doesn't care. You can mix and match all different models and display them as first-class citizens. So how it is done, it's basically a model, and we can take any model and publish it in any category. We don't have any requirements for the model. It doesn't have to have any special fields or anything. You just basically supply a template that will render the detail of the object, and you're set. So like this, I could display a comment, or even just one vote in a poll. Not sure why I would do it, but I could. The other interesting thing that Ella has is something that we call custom URLs. You can see comments here, and if I do read all, what it does, it will just take the URL and append komentáře, that's comments in Czech, and some other parameters. And what this actually is that the application commons that we use, that is our clone of the Django contrib commons before the update, of course. We're planning to repair that. So it just came in and said, hey, if you have an object URL and it continues then with this word, komentáře, then give it to me, I'll take care of it. I'll handle the template rendering and everything. So in that way, you can have custom actions on your objects, and you can either define this globally. For example, you can follow any objects with /comments, and you have the comments /comments new and everything. That's entirely inside the comments application, and Ella doesn't know anything about what's going on behind that, and doesn't have to. Or you can define this. For individual content types. For example, with the gallery I showed you before. For Google, they have pretty slow connectivity to outside of US. So here you can have, when I click another image, I'll also get a URL that will say items and the slug of the item. The next thing I can show you is the admin interface. Now we have a new one. It's a woman's map. This was actually the first request of the editors. What admin interface must look like? It must have Brad Pitt. So this is what we do. I'll just show you how to add an article. We have some. All of the guys before me showed rich text editor. We also have one. 10. And that's probably it. You can use Markdown in here, and I don't have time to say you anything more. So if you want to know more, just grab me and we'll have a talk.
Hello, my name is Jay Graves. I don't have any slides, and I wasn't prepared to speak today, hence I'm in the overflow section. But I am interested in microblogging, in particular open microblogging. I don't know, many people may be aware of the Laconica project and the open microblogging spec that has come out of that. There's a website called Identica that implements that, but you can download the Laconica project and install it yourself. And it's very similar to just a Twitter clone. But the open microblogging makes it cool, so everyone can have their own server. We can talk to each other. It's not all on Twitter. And that's all well and good, but it's in PHP, and I'm not a big fan of that. And I have started porting the Laconica project itself, whole hog, to Python and Django. This is nice, and I was hoping to talk to people and find other people who are interested in open microblogging to help out. But then I saw James Tauber's talk on Pinax, and it looks like everything is there for this, except for OAuth and OMB. So why not just create a reusable app that implements OMB on top of the OAuth? So I started working on that last night, and I've started making some progress. And I was just hoping to talk with like-minded people, maybe talk with James himself, and see what other people have to say, and if other people are interested to work on this. I think OMB is in such a early stage that we really have the opportunity here to grab a hold of it and kind of drive its adoption with a lot of other things. Twitter is a great thing. The German tweet word that I can't pronounce would work very well with this, but if you use content types and more things, you could have the Pinax photos thing. So if I have Pinax and you have Pinax and someone else has their own open OMB protocol thing, then I could post a photo, you get notified of the photo. I think it's just a really exciting time to get on board with this. So if anyone else is interested and this sounds like a fun project, I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to get something out there quickly. So thank you.
All right, so I'm Joel Watts. So this is Why I Hate User from the Django Contrib app. And I want to start out, this talks really about two different things. It's about how a user could probably change to be better, and then why you probably don't want to use it as the basis for all your reusable apps. And so first, I want to pick a couple nits. I don't like the field names, first name and last name. Most of the world calls these things family name and given name or surname. But like I said, that's not that big a deal. But user.getFullName is broken because that's not how most people format names. Or not most people, but people who don't speak English, which I guess is most people. But there are people who don't speak English who do format it that way. Anyway, there's people in the microformats community with HCard and vCard and iCal and all those things that have already looked into this and do it really well, and we should probably look at that. And then to go on, I really hate getProfile. Particularly when I try to explain to somebody who's making a template why it's user.firstname, but it's user.getProfile.photo.url. And by the way, that's a lot better than photo.getPhotoURL or profile.getPhotoURL, so thanks for that. I think model inheritance would help, but you can't really use it for extending the user model because you can't create child models after you've already created the parent model. So if we had a way to assign values to the parent link, that would probably help. And then I talked about somebody about this yesterday, and it came up in the questioning about the ORM. But if you could have a way to query the user model but get the child instances back, that would solve a lot of problems too. I know that comes up a lot. And I'm interested in working on that problem, so if anyone wants to talk. Credentials are not the same thing as the user. This is the why you might not want to be using user part of the talk. Username and password is one way to do authentication, but there are others, OpenID being a big one. I guess that's actually kind of my next slide. So I don't want to use usernames and passwords, and most of the time you probably don't either if you really think about it. Auth is kind of, OpenID is new, but it solves a lot of problems and lets people specialize in authentication. So you don't have to. I guess on intranets you might care, but on the web, I don't know. That's about all I had to say. I just wanted to rant about user a little bit. And if anybody wants to talk to me about how to make it better, that's how to get in touch with me. Thanks.
All right, so I am Andrew Feiler, and I'm going to tell you about another Python-based web framework that you should not use. So, yes, hello, DjangoCon. This is, I was pretending I was clueless earlier, calling it DjangoCon, and then somebody said, Django needs a mascot, so why not the dingo, huh? It's, you know, I haven't heard any better suggestions, so yes, DjangoCon. Anyway, so in 2002, I was in college, and I worked for a telecom company, and during spring break, most of the people I know went to Cancun to do body shots at Senior Frogs, but I wrote a web framework instead. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it, because we don't even use it at work anymore. We saw the light and loved Django, and then didn't use it because it didn't support the database engine, so we use Rails instead. So I want this to have some sort of use, but just take a look at it. Don't use it. Maybe steal code if it does any good for you. I don't know if it would. So skime is an MVC framework, except you notice the V is split in half because things are split in half in the view. So don't think that I was a genius when I wrote this, but there's some good ideas in here, and hopefully you'll get some of them out of this, but don't actually use skime, please. So it does do some cool things, like you can have 2 different databases, and depending on what you're doing, you can write to one or the other. And this was useful because we had basically different, actually different companies that had the same database. They didn't have to be exactly the same. But so you could change an account that was in one customer's database or account that was another one and still have an administrative database on top of that. So it does that, which you don't see a lot. It worked out for us, but you might have a good reason not to do that. You probably don't want to do that, but if you do, it is possible. And yes, it really will read from COBOL databases too. So you can have SQL databases and flat files and everything. And so again, this is sort of specialized, but I wrote it, and maybe you want to steal code from it. It's mostly read-only right now because the ISAM indexing for these COBOL databases was kind of crazy, and we didn't really want to write to the COBOL database anyway, because imagine telecom billing servers falling over because some silly Python app wrote to it. Yeah, but you can read flat files, you can define all that stuff, no problem. So half of the MVC, sort of the M and the first half of the V, or sorry, the second half of the V and the C is called a data module, and basically we already support CRUD type things in it. So you can see we have edit, view, verify, and update. Those are kind of the CRUD things. We just set some parameters, tell it that's all you need to do. And then we set, basically, you see structures, and those are the models. And so basically all this is saying is make a set of pages that will take these models. Webs are based off of web redirects and so on, or they're linked. It's a relationship. Anyway, and so it displays all that in one nice page, handles, saving, and all that stuff all in one place. The other side is the structure, and it's a model, but it also has view stuff in it. So here's a couple examples that we actually define all this stuff in there so we can create the databases from there, and it shows the display stuff. So we actually put drop-downs and things like that in there, and nobody does that anymore. I didn't think it was such a horrible idea, but that's what we did. And we have a couple different arrangements, form, list, and row. It's just a different way to display the page. But it's all built automatically, and so you don't get as much control, but it looks nice. It's easy to do. So that's it. If you want to look at the code, take a look at it. Please don't use it. Thank you.
Hi, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Lisa Dussault, and although I am a Django user programmer, my alter ego is I'm the IETF Applications Area Director. I'm not sure which alter ego is Rogue and which alter ego is Anna Marie, but I'm pretty sure I'm a mutant. I just wanted to give 10 reasons why you might or might not care about the IETF, and if you do care about the IETF, you might want to talk to me if you're not already an IETF participant. 1, the IETF is currently revising the HTTP standard, the core standard, looking at things like content types and character sets and how we figure out what document a character set is. Just for Simon. 2, working on HTTP extensions like patch, an easier way to modify a resource that you've already got on the server and be clear that that's the client action that it intends, not be unclear about whether you're creating a new one or overwriting or accidentally overwriting. 3, OpenID and OAuth, not currently IETF documents. Why is that? There's some gossip behind that. 4, AtomPub. Current work on AtomPub includes some extensions. One lovely extension by my friend Mark Nottingham, is also extending RSS, even though RSS is not an IETF standard. That's cool. Number 5, WebDAV, CalDAV, iCalendar. Some of you use those. Number 6, JSON. JSON is an IETF RFC. It's an informational standard. It was well-baked by the time it was submitted as an internet draft, and I actually was the director who sponsored that to RFC status. JSON extensions, JSON schemas, could be interesting. And that brings me to number 7, which is that RFCs can define schemas as well as protocols or languages. XML is actually the most popular base language for use in new schema standards, but like I said, JSON. Number 8, the RFC editor can publish individual specifications. The RFC editor is even now so independent from the IETF that it can publish separate document streams. Could be cool. It's quite easy to do something individual and informational. That's my number 9. Informational RFCs are a very low-cost way to publish a specification that promotes interoperability, that is stable and referenceable. You get an RFC number and people know where to find it. And number 10, you can create a working group. If you have some work that you think would be interesting, the directors, like me, we actually don't initiate most of the new work at the IETF. That comes from people like you. You're all familiar with how open source works. Open standards actually work a lot the same way. So now if you want to introduce yourself to me, you know what I look like.
So my name is Damon Cortese. I would like to show you a couple applications that I have that I've whipped up in the past, I don't know, few weeks or maybe month or so while I've been self-employed. So this is called Rate My Talk, which might be applicable to this conference here, actually. I was getting kind of frustrated with going to conferences and not actually seeing any way to provide some valuable feedback to the speakers. So sat down with Django. I'd written some Rails, or one Rails app before, and decided to see how Django would go. So sat down with Django, and over the course of a couple weekends, whipped up this site called ratemytalk.com. And you can go here and you can see today we've got a conference called DjangoCon. And at DjangoCon, there are no presentations right now because we're doing the Lightning presentation, but coming up, we've got Django on Jython, code design and patch writing. I think Malcolm's in the back there writing his slides for that right now. So you can see some of the talks coming up. And as you can see, some of you may have noticed you've gotten pinged by a bot on Twitter called Talker. So the idea behind Rate My Talk is you can provide the feedback through Twitter, and allows you to provide that feedback on your computer through an SMS access. So different ways to do that. And you can see throughout today we've gotten some ratings on the panels as well as some of the other talks. And down here we have the average ratings that the different presentations have received. And if I want to, I can click through to the speakers for the day. And I can see all the different speakers at DjangoCon, the average rating that they've received throughout the day. And then using a specially crafted custom-weighted algorithm, simple math, I can see who's gotten the highest ratings throughout the day. So James Bennett apparently did a pretty good job on his presentation the other day. I can click through to him. And unfortunately, my design skills are far less crafty than my programming skills. So this is a pretty generic page right now. But I can see what James Bennett presented on his reusable apps presentation. He got some pretty good reviews. You can also provide comments. So you can see here, people said, you know, clear, concise, authoritative. Can't wait to watch this video again. So looks like he did pretty well. And so it's kind of nice to be able to provide that real-time feedback to speakers that they can go and they can retrieve at a later date. Plans for this, maybe, you know, speakers can use it on their own, or maybe tie in with conferences as a whole so it can provide a better feedback system than filling out a paper form and actually mailing it in. And James Tauber just got rated absolutely fantastic presentation on his Pinax talk. Thank you. So yes, actually it ties into Twitter. So as you can see, if I go back to Twitter for my TalkerBot, I can see RPB down in Sao Paulo just replied and said, rated me on my talk. You can also send direct messages, so if you want anonymous feedback, it provides that as well. And like I said, you can go and you can look at your presentation and see the different comments that are coming back for your presentation. So switching over to another one called Hannah Tracker. 2 minutes. As we all know, Gustav and Hannah came around and said, oh no, you know, what's going to happen down in the other areas of the South where hurricanes might hit. So I spent a night, maybe 4 or 5 hours, whipping together a Django and Google application. As you can see, this is hosted at AppSpot, integrated with Twitter again so that people could actually send SMS messages through Twitter to a wider audience for help. So this app I whipped together in a few hours. Again, design skills a little bit lacking, but hey, it gets the job done. And what happens is these get sent through Twitter, get showed up on here, and then people can follow the RSS feeds and try to get that help request out to a wider audience. Finally, I'd like to do a little bit of a public safety demonstration. Quite appropriate since we're on the Google campus, so I'm sure many of you here use Gmail. And this is just, like I said, a simple public safety reminder. For anybody that might be on this list right here, please, please, please start using HTTPS Gmail. If you're a regular Gmail user, this is actually an option that you can enable in Google Mail. You can go into your settings, and down at the bottom it says always use HTTPS. If you're using Google Apps, this isn't enabled yet. It's supposed to be soon. But if you put in HTTPS on your browser bar when you go to mail.google.com, it'll always stay in SSL mode, so your email is safe and secure. For these people right up here, you're using Twitter over HTTP. Those are your passwords. If you see your password up there, you might want to consider a different avenue. And finally, down here, this is somebody that sent a direct message yesterday through Twitter. So direct messages are not private, they're just direct. Thank you very much.
Can I get one more round of applause for all of our lightning talk speakers today? That was very good.